Well, this is, irritating. I had planned to make this my next video the very day before this whole shitstorm started, I'll have you know, but the moment I do, this happens, and now my entire introduction for this likely shit video is completely gone.
It's useless now, isn't it?
That's just wonderful. Damn it, I had something good as well. It was gonna be really funny. Now it's dead. Deader than that Japanese guy in the forest. Now, before all of YouTube had turned their collective minds to Logan Paul as well as his mentally challenged younger brother, where they all decided that they would slowly tear them apart inch by inch and to inevitably milk that cow and drain it for all it was worth, I pride myself in, well, pride really isn't the right word here, but I can personally state that I did criticize them well before it was popular. Wait, which one did I criticize? Oh, okay, that one. That one, yes? Yes, okay, good, sorry, I confused the two. But today, as you've likely guessed, we're talking about the Paul of the Logan variety in his critically acclaimed feature, The Finning. A movie I initially was going to save for a subscriber special, but that doesn't seem likely in the near future, or in any future for that matter, so we're just gonna tear through this piece of shit now. Now, it is highly likely that there are some of you crying out in dissent about how much of an easy target this is.
Dab it on them haters!
Well, congratulations! You caught me red-handed. It's almost as if I knew that to begin with, but that wasn't gonna stop me now, was it? This entire video could just be white text saying that the movie is bad, and none of you would dare question or complain about it. But in making this video, it is similar to beating up a crippled blind child, in that you already know it's almost pointless to beat the shit out of him, but that doesn't make it any less fun. And besides, I likely pissed off some very enlightened individuals during the last video, so let this one act as some sort of peace offering. Also, I'm going to judge this movie as I judge every movie. I don't care who made it, or what their budget was, or if they made it for their dying mothers. It's all fair game, okay? Okay. Great! The Finning came out in and is unfortunately not about fat people trying to lose weight for an hour and a half before eventually crying into a bowl full of cake mixture. The movie is instead a... hold on a second, let me just make sure I have this right. Okay, it is instead a shitty ripoff of that other shitty ripoff of that one dystopian movie, which was another shitty ripoff of another dystopian movie, which was just a shitty dystopian movie. Also, from The Purge in there somewhere, combined it all together, and you've got this absolute delight.
It's a fucking masterpiece! It's a masterpiece! Pop the champagne!
Hey, remember when dystopian fiction wasn't as bland and lifeless as the desolate and tactile surroundings that inhabit a large number of its universes? Remember when it didn't need to needlessly add a B story that involved two pretty-faced boy faggots arguing over which one of them was first going to stick their dick into the main character's primordial snatch? Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, as that may or may not be a video for another time, because at the moment, we need to focus on this movie's premise, as it already starts off on very poor footing. The premise being that students from years 1 to 12 must go through a yearly test that will determine not only their overall intelligence, but which one of them will be involved in the annual school shooting.
That's what I do.
The reason for this is that the world is currently suffering from an overpopulation problem, as so eloquently stated by the movie itself. And if you already can't see the blatant issues surrounding this premise, it primarily has to do with the fact that there are about a dozen other ways for you to go about this whole decreasing the population business that seem a lot less nonsensical. A few of these examples are, number 1, kill off the elderly once they reach a certain age.
What's the one problem right now that's not going to be around in 2070? The elderly and the disabled. 'Cause we're just gonna kill them!
This to me seems like the most logical choice, considering a lot of the older generation won't nearly be as productive once they reach their senior years. Because frankly, doesn't anyone else find it kind of fucking stupid that they are actively killing off the future generation by doing this? Individuals who will likely do a lot more good than the older generation who have probably already fulfilled their debt to society. Yeah, sorry little Bobby Bobowitz, since you didn't understand the deep complexities of Heart of Darkness, it's time for you to get the bullet. Number 2, bring back the death penalty for anyone who commits a serious crime. Number 3, pull a communist China and only allow 1 child per couple. And number 4, kill off the mentally disabled. These are but a couple of solutions that can be used to help solve this problem. So now that we've covered this less than stellar premise, let's see how it fares in terms of its execution. The film opens with this incredibly creative text spoon-feeding us the film's universe. We are then introduced to Girl. I, for the life of me, can't remember what the fuck her actual name is, so I'm going to refer to her as Girl 1. Girl 1 has a sister, a brother, and a mother who is currently suffering from a severe case of dying. Yeah, it's never really explained what she's dying of. She only really appears in this scene before kicking the bucket, and after this there are at most 2 scenes where they directly call back to this plot point. Don't know why they even bothered if that was the case. Surely not because it's just blatant The only real thing of note is that we learn that Girl 1 has apparently made contact lenses for people to cheat on the test with. How she did this and how she hasn't gotten caught yet is anyone's guess. It's not like they cared enough to bother writing a reason. This is all we learn from our lead main character, outside of a few minor details that are so minimal I can't even be bothered to remember what they were. She's practically a blank slate, which lacks any and all personality. Doesn't help that she isn't remotely a good actress either.
I think the best thing anyone can do now is to just keep her comfortable. Sorry.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Ah, there we are, the classic single tear. Powerful stuff, guys. Oscar worthy even. We are then introduced to Logan Paul Blart and Girl number 2. To be honest, the only way I was able to differentiate between these two is that Girl 1 has a really weird forehead. Ah, fucking spooked. You sure got me. Anyway, after that, we get more padding until Logan Paul Blart gets caught by his dad's security. Then we are treated to this obnoxious scene.
You want a Pop-Tart?
What?
Some people like to toast these, but I never have the patience, you know? God, I love them. Did you up on tonight? You got anything going on tomorrow? Oh, wait. Oh my God, you have a test. It's test day tomorrow. I completely forgot myself. It's so easy to forget something like that, isn't it?
I get it. Okay. Sorry.
Look, there's nothing wrong with having a little fun every once in a while. But you gotta pick your moments. The night before a life-altering test? It's not the moment.
Got it.
I really don't understand why this scene is trying to make the dad seem like this gigantic asshole. Man, what a complete cunt. How dare he want his son to study for a test that will actually determine whether or not he lives or dies instead of fucking around with some girl. What an absolute dickhead. This is a really terrible time to do that whole rebellious phase thing, you absolute knob.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
Also, can I just state how fucking obnoxious this trope is? The rebellious teen who won't be put down by the man. Curious, what is remotely compelling about a character that routinely disobeys their parents? You know, the people who cared for them, bathed them, fed them, gave them a roof under their heads, gave them an education, and were to instill good moral values into them so that they would one day pass them on to their children. Don't get me wrong, I did that shit when I was younger as well, but that was when I was a little baby boy who didn't know any better. In all honesty, I think the last time I proactively and maliciously disobeyed my parents was when I was like 10, and all that involved was me watching my 4x3 TV late at night. Oddly enough, that was kind of a bad idea as I somehow stumbled upon Perfect Blue, and I was confused, to say the least. So it is now test day, and apparently in the not too distant future, schools look a lot like concentration camps, where all the guards are seemingly cosplaying as discount Slade Wilsons.
If your students are going to serve me, you'll have to pass one final exam.
This is kind of dumb. By all means, I understand wanting to keep students on the school premises, but do you really think it's remotely appropriate or necessary to have guards dressed like this? And yes, I do understand that the sole purpose of these guys is to be intimidating for the protagonist, thus ergo the audience, but here it just comes across as incredibly silly, especially in contrast to the film's more realistic focus. We're then introduced to this wonderful character who is just a massive white knight. And I'm not even being funny here, I'm being 100% serious. That's all he is. We will literally learn nothing about this character outside of a plot device.
I know, it's pretty tragic.
Jeez. Well, it's almost as tragic as being in love with your best friend who's in love with a guy that doesn't even know her name. But that's just something I saw in a movie once.
Subtle. This is some quality BioWare tier writing we have here.
You'll have 2 hours to complete the test. No talking. Keep your eyes on your own tablet. Pick up your tablets and begin.
I don't think that realistically they would be using tablets to conduct a test like this. If that's the case, you really shouldn't be surprised if that leaves them open to be tampered with. Seems like you're opening yourselves up to some corruption here. Hold on a second. You know, outside of a few exceptions, I'm noticing a distinct lack of colors here. Also noticing a lack of Jews as well. I know it was all in jest earlier, but I think that concentration camp joke might actually hold some validity. So girl 2 ends up failing the test, and no one gives a shit because the movie gave no reason for you to give a shit. And despite Hollow Skull's best efforts, she ends up getting the bullet and he suffers no consequences for assaulting armed security. Oh man, that's just... that's fantastic. Also, cue generic 1 year later title card. I'm somewhat curious as to why the movie didn't just start here. In that span of time, a girl 1's mum died, and the only reason I remembered that the mum was an actual character is because I wrote it down earlier. Just shows you how much impact it actually had. There is also this character who gets introduced completely out of nowhere. Who is she and what is her character? Well... she's a god! Her sole purpose is to show this guy as some sleazy douchebag. That is it. She has no arc whatsoever. In fact, she barely has any dialogue either. We are given absolutely no reason as to understand or sympathize with this person. It really is kind of baffling how short this movie's runtime is, yet its pacing is so terribly handled. The opening 20 minutes or so could have been either completely cut or rearranged so it could fit in better thematically. Characters like this are nothing but further padding, and if you were to move that said padding, all you'd have left is like 40 minutes worth of a movie, which would be a significant improvement to what we already have. Granted, what you'd have left would still be pretty retarded, but at least it wouldn't be so mind-numbingly boring. So it's test day. Again. And we get... oh man. Just watch.
Did I get you?
No, you do this every day.
Oh, well, do I do this every day? Hola. Do I look British?
Ah yes, the classic British trait of putting a bag over your head. Yeah, but what an absolute comedian we have here. I'm sure your future wife's son will find this joke very amusing indeed.
Do I look like a British person? Out of the way, bitches. Wade Freeman, all-star quarterback. Represent! Oh my god.
What a guy. I don't have words for this, so I'm just going to move on. Brain capacity of a stillborn announces to his father via video that he is going to fail the test and effectively commit suicide.
It looks like he may commit suicide. Suicide is badass.
Round of applause, everyone. What an absolute hero, only giving a shit about the morality of the test when it affects him personally. Upon learning this and realizing that his son is a gigantic retard, he tries to pull some strings in order to prevent this from happening. Meanwhile, we get this scene with a bunch of first graders, and I will admit that this scene almost got me, but I was able to realize that the reason for that was because the movie was being emotionally manipulative. Remember everyone, if you want to invoke an emotional response within your audience but want to be as lazy and disingenuous as possible, simply use animals or children. Though keep in mind, it's a slimy arsehole thing to do. Hell, for all I know you aren't even killing them but are instead leading them to the back of a darkly tinted van owned by a man who goes by the name of Spevin Casey.
Are there a bunch of little boys in this one too? Hello?
Rage boys.
FBI!
Girl 1 ends up failing the test this time. Oh no, and as she goes to get ethnically cleansed, her teacher shows up and tries to prevent this from happening because she's the main character. Funny how she is apparently the only student that matters, unlike the dozens of others that came before her. Not to mention the dozen or other so students who are in your general vicinity. During this, Logan Paul uses the oldest trick in the book to overpower this guard and shut down the power. I'm beginning to understand why this place needs so many guards, because this is some quality security right here. Keep in mind, Girl 1 escapes during this commotion, and the only reason that happens is because they are too stupid to notice a door being opened. Our two main characters end up meeting where they decide to head to the main server room and figure out what's going on. Then we reach this irritating conversation.
We need to find where they keep the test.
What are you gonna do? Steal the answers for next year?
Excuse me?
You know, for your little side business, where you sell the answers to desperate kids for money.
You don't know what you're talking about.
No, I do.
So you're essentially criticizing her for making money, while at the same time saving people's lives by helping them pass a test where they could have possibly failed and end up dead. I'm assuming, partly and due to the fact that we are given no understanding as to how she makes these contact lenses, that they would be somewhat expensive to make, meaning that you would need quite a bit of money in order to make them. It's quite interesting that you didn't seem to have a problem with this when you tried to buy one off of her earlier.
I was hoping that I could buy one of your study guides.
I don't know why you, as well as her, as well as this movie, seem to believe that receiving money for helping people is somehow a bad thing. She wasn't exploiting people, she was providing a service that helped them in the long run. And if she was exploiting people, it is never at all indicated or implied. Perhaps if you had done that to begin with, he wouldn't look like a self-righteous, moral, grandstanding dumbass.
This is the dumbest conversation I've ever heard.
Nothing really happens for the next 10 minutes or so, as a lot of it is just inconsequential dumb shit. Really, the only thing of actual note is that this black dude gets beaten up.
This is a black thing, isn't it?
This has nothing to do with anything, it was just something I happened to notice. Also, we get another scene where Logan Paul overpowers yet another guard, despite being at a clear disadvantage. Man, you sure do know how to pick 'em. So the two main characters decide to split up, with Girl 1 going to the server room and this Supreme Knob going to save everyone trapped in the oven, even though that's a really terrible idea. So Girl 1 hacks the server terminal with the help of a white knight and finds out that she did actually pass the test and that the people behind the test are corrupt. Shouldn't be that surprising, considering that no one else thought it was a bad idea to use tablets when conducting this test, as they can be potentially manipulated in order to alter the results. Also, it absolutely makes no sense as to why there aren't multiple people scanning over and checking these test scores. You know, in order to make sure that they don't make any mistakes, so they don't accidentally kill someone. So she sends the test results to her white knight, who finds out that they're corrupt, who then sends it to the media, who also learns that they're corrupt. Then the governor watches the news and learns that people know that he is corrupt, even though he feigns ignorance. And then everyone is mad because they realize that they're corrupt.
You can see how this is working up to a blistering conclusion.
During all of this, this fucking idiot decides to try and pull this stupid shit.
Attention!
I was just told to move these students to the recreation hall immediately. So let's get moving. Undo the restraints.
No, we don't do anything without direct confirmation from Mason King. Identify yourself now.
Of course. I'm sorry. Let me show you the confirmation order.
What a flawless execution. The sheer scale of your intelligence is just truly staggering to witness. Somewhat surprised that he didn't overpower all these guards single-handedly. Wouldn't be much of a stretch, all things considered. In order to not get eternally arse-blasted, the governor is forced to let Girl 1 go and let his son die. And it's meant to be this big emotional scene and yada yada yada. Girl 1 gets out, gets reunited with her sister, and the retard dies. Except, surprise surprise, he actually doesn't get killed. Yes, the movie's twist is that instead of killing the kids, they are using them as slave labor to make the tablets that they use for the test, which they use to determine who gets killed. Which we have already established doesn't in fact get them killed, but results in them becoming slave labor to make more tablets so that they can be used for the test, so that they can then get more slave labor instead of killing them, yet they still have a vast overpopulation problem. I'm not going to go on an endless tirade as to why this twist makes no sense whatsoever, but you have an overpopulation problem, meaning that you are struggling to feed people. I think my point here should be pretty obvious. I am guessing that you are resorting to cannibalism just for half of these people and using the rest as slave labor. I am not noticing any children here, so I assume they're the ones on the chopping block.
Looks like meat's back on the menu!
There is no way that you can provide a reasonable excuse for this twist that doesn't immediately contradict what you've set up within the film's universe. Your twist is incredibly dumb, you fucking failed, and you should feel bad for it. And that's it. That's the movie. Not very good, is it? Funnily enough, the one thing I'll give this movie credit for, and it's kind of fucking devious in a weird way, that the difference between this movie and the movies it's blatantly ripping off is that this movie only has a lower production value. In terms of look and presentation, the movie managed to achieve the bland and soul-sucking style it took from its predecessors. It's obvious that the people behind this movie know how to pander to their audience, even though it's unlikely that they even needed to bother to begin with. This movie's audience is going to gobble this shit up for the sole reason it has Logan Paul's name on it, because they've been indoctrinated to believe anything else is heresy and that you should be burned at the stake for it. Unfortunate that that is the case, but that's just how things are, I guess. As many of you already likely know, the sequel to this disaster, due to Logan Paul's escapades, is now on hiatus. Which makes me a very, very happy boy indeed. Mainly because we won't get a sequel, and hopefully because Logan Paul will understand the consequences of his continuously shitty behavior, which in turn brings out the endless wave of lecherous content on YouTube. If you're watching Logan, it's kind of annoying to see, so if you could stop it at your earliest convenience,
that would be great.
If the sequel does get made, I probably won't make a video on it because frankly it would just be more low-hanging fruit, and I really doubt much would change to begin with. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Expect the next video within the next 6 months.